Hello, welcome back to Tweet Your Leader New podcast, where we chat about realistic leadership theories. On today's podcast, we're going to be continuing the conversation on the National Black Canadian Summit. We have the amazing Robert Wright with us, and we have so much conversations to have today about talking about reimagining justice. Before we start the conversation, I would like to introduce my amazing co-host, Josh Deal.
What's going on, man? Good to be back in front of all these people, talking to wonderful guests.
Yeah, it's really good to talk about justice, and I'm really curious of Robert's definition of justice. Welcome, Robert. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
How is life?
It's fantastic.
That's good. Well, Robert, I want to get right into the conversation.
Sure.
What does justice means to you? In a quick definition. You've been doing this for quite some time, so yeah.
Well, I think that we need to think about justice not just in terms of the context of criminal justice. When we think about justice, we think about police, we think about courts, we think about correctional facilities. But justice is really about fair dealing.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring that people are treated justly, so that there's equity and there is fair distribution, fairness, justice. These are the sorts of things that I think about when I think about justice.
Right.
Do you think that people know about equality or know how equality is supposed to be defined?
Well, I think that these days when we talk about these things, we like to make a distinction between equality and equity, right? Because if you treat everybody equally, then someone's going to get missed out. So for example, do you treat your 4-year-old the same way you treat your 12-year-old?
Yeah.
No, you should not treat them equally.
Yeah.
You should treat them equitably. You should treat them how they need to be treated given their circumstances.
Right.
So in a society like this, if there are poor people, clearly poor people need more attention than do wealthy people.
Yeah. Right.
So you don't treat people equally, you treat them equitably.
Wow. I love that. That's a great point.
Sure.
Yeah.
Kind of the next question that we've been asking all our guests that come on is like, we're here at the summit. If you had one goal for the summit or one message, what would your message be or goal?
A goal or message? Well, I'd say that the goal of the summit really is about galvanizing a national black agenda. That has to be the idea that black people have existed on Turtle Island for as long as there has been European presence here. Right? And so from that point of view, we are one of the founding peoples of Canada. And yet, because of the condition of our enslavement and segregation and oppression, our presence in this country, our aspirations, even our contributions have all been minimized. And so it's time for black people to kind of say, hold on, we're here, we've been making a contribution, and now our voice should be one of the voices that helps to shape this country. And I think that these opportunities really give us the opportunity to galvanize that kind of national agenda.
Wow. National agenda, the black national agenda is what we need. You know, when you speak about reimagining, and I know that your session is coming up, what are you going to be speaking about? What are like 3 takeaways that people are going to take away from this reimagining justice? How is this going to help people? Let's go from there.
Well, I'm the acting executive director of the African Nova Scotian Justice Institute. So when we established the institute, it was with the understanding that black people are not treated equitably by the criminal justice system. That there is systemic racism in the criminal justice system, from first contact with police right on through till incarceration and reintegration. Black people have differential and negative experiences. So to reimagine justice is to really take a look at that and say, what would the criminal justice system look like if there was actual justice within that system? What would policing look like if there were justice? Everybody knows about street checks and the fact that black people are dramatically disproportionately targeted for policing. Well, that tells us that there's a fundamental problem with policing. So what would policing look like? One of the things I suspect is that there would be a lot less policing if there was justice in policing. And so it's going to be a session where we really challenge that idea, to think about justice, think about criminal justice actors with a justice lens, rather than a policing lens, a justice lens.
Yeah, I've definitely never thought of it that way, so that's really cool. Kind of another question that we've been asking all our guests, and kind of a theme of the weekend, is about youth and how youth can be involved. Do you have any opinions on the youth and how maybe that will lead into justice as well?
Well, I think that, again, when we think about black people being dramatically overrepresented and over-policed, it's black male youth who are dramatically policed. And so I think that there's a real need for young people and young people's voices to be heard. It's because it's their rights that are being trampled. Not old black guys like me. It's black young people who are in greatest need of a society that treats them equitably and just. So I think it's time for black young people to actually take that up, to say, okay, we are going to demand better treatment. We are going to demand that our rights and our bodies be respected. And that's what's been happening. In fact, the street checks issue that was here in Halifax, it was black young people who were largely in those protests and in those marches that called public attention to the street checks fiasco. Wow. So more black people engaged in issues, more black young people engaged in the issues, involved in activism, but activism is just the calling attention to an issue. We need more black young people at the table shaping policies and legislations and to advance these kinds of issues.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, for sure.
I agree with that. Do you think it's easy nowadays for black people to get involved in policy development and policy work? How do you envision people getting involved in that process? Because sometimes you always gotta say, you gotta tell them. You gotta tell, or you gotta show, you gotta direct.
I think there are lots of opportunities for service. I think, however, that those opportunities have to be real. I think that I think a lot of black young people, younger people especially, feel it's a waste of their time to be sitting in a committee and listening to people talk and talk and talk and talk. Meanwhile, they are connected to the real issues and they need to feel things happening. Right? But I'd say that if a person has the patience for it, there are an awful lot of opportunities to serve on boards and commissions and agencies that are municipal, provincial, and federal. And that's where the policy change is happening. Right? But again, an agency or board or commission is only going to turn their attention to the policies and to the issues that the community has demanded they look at. So if black young people are in the street involved in activism, black young people have to be on the boards and agencies that are going to then respond with a policy solution to the problem that's been identified. So some of these, some folk who are activists in their nature either need to carve out time for policy work or they need to find a partner to be involved in the policy work. So, and I always say that there's tremendous partnership between the people who sit around tables and people who march in streets. There should not be perceived division between those two.
Yeah.
I'll just say this, that as a person who sits around tables often, I say that, that's the job of what I call the reasonable Negro. Right? The reasonable Negro shows up at the table. It's the angry Negro who's in the street protesting. But don't kid yourself, we're on the same team.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I have a partner in crime who is an angry Negro. That person is always agitating in the community and then calling me and saying, Robert, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this.
Yeah.
And I'm at the table advocating for those things.
Yeah.
And recently on an issue, I won't say, I was so angry that I was the one person protesting. And my colleague was like, Robert, I guess I need to do the policy work then. So I think there is this exchange between activism and policy work. And I think that people who want to see things change need to see both of those things as important.
Right. That's what we've been talking about too, is throughout the weekends about collection of people, and it's a group effort, not just one. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And there's need for people in the community serving each other, people in the community involved in activism, people around tables making policy decisions, people in the academy researching and studying and writing and teaching about these things.
Yeah.
And we all are black people. We are all on the same page, all doing the same work.
We're all black people, all people of diverse perspective, all people of different career paths, but it connects in a way that we can all work together. I use Ubuntu again. Our success is your success. Togetherness, connecting with people as we continue to move forward.
Yes.
Robert, I want to invite you more back onto this podcast because you have a lot of insight to bring to the table. And I appreciate you actually doing that. But before we go, we at Tweet the Leader New Podcast always try to allow our guests to say one word or quote or saying that's going to inspire the community to move forward. What would that one word, quote, or saying be to help people moving forward?
Right on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, it may not seem too inspiring, but I always say that we need to reflect on the fact that racism is North America's original sin.
That's really good.
If you think about that, since the 15th century, European contact on this continent came with the genocide of First Nations and the enslavement of Africans. So, racism is North America's original sin. We've all been tainted by it. We've all been implicated in it. And without addressing it, there will be no peace, and there will be no sustainability of living here on this land. And I think that that's what the whole concept of reconciliation is. It's about reconciling with Canada's First Peoples, and it's about reconciling each other. And like I say, that is the work. If we want to have peace, if we want to have prosperity, if we want to have unity, if we want to have sustainability, it begins with addressing and curing that first injury.
That's very powerful.
That's really powerful. Yeah. If you want to do things together, you have to come together. If you want to walk alone, then you know that there's not going to be no one who's going to walk with you. I leave you with this, and I hope that you resonate on how important we must continue to work together in order to fight for things that's right, issues that are important to all of us. I know that climate change is one of those issues that are talked about. Poverty is another thing that's talked about in society, and crime, of course, is talked about. These are important issues that we want to bring to the table at Tweet the Leader New Podcast, and we hope that you get connected with us to have more of those conversations. We'll see you at the next episode.